I really wanted to follow Aaron's presentation because I think he would have said important things about free software and accessibility. And I have a lot to say about, I think Mozilla has a lot to say about things that we've talked about in this conference, and I hope that we could touch a bit of it. So what is Mozilla? Mozilla, not many people know, is a nonprofit. It's a global community. We're most known for Firefox. Many of you might use it every day. But I'd like to give some history about Mozilla, maybe to provide even more context as to what we're doing today and why it's relevant. So there used to be a time in the early 2000s when over 90% of web traffic was through Internet Explorer, version 6. At that time, the assumption was that you were on a Windows computer, that you used Microsoft products, and you would get the specific kind of flavor of the web that was the Microsoft flavor of the web. Mozilla has a history that precedes all that, but this is when it becomes relevant. We created Firefox. Firefox at that time was superior feature-wise to Internet Explorer, and didn't really ever gain more market share than Internet Explorer, but did have enough of a strong following to really make Internet Explorer and make the Internet a lot more diverse when it comes to web browsers. And it meant that that Microsoft wasn't anymore the single instrument that you use to browse the web. And today there are a lot of web browsers that you could use on the desktop, and you get pretty much a consistent experience when it comes to using the web on all these different browsers. It's a very competitive market right now. It's Chrome and Firefox release a new major version every 6 weeks with new features that come along with that. Internet Explorer itself is a much better product because of this competition. They're about to release version 11, I believe, and it's more compliant and a better browser because of Mozilla. So we really do like to take credit for the fact that that everybody today is in a better internet. And we're really informed by our manifesto. Like I said, we're a nonprofit, and we take this seriously. I think the most important part of our manifesto is really, I'm going to read the whole thing, but I think the first point is really the important part that the rest relies on. That is that the Internet is a global public resource that must remain open and accessible. So we believe that it doesn't belong to one company, and it can't be controlled by one interest. It is something that everybody should have access to. It should not be proprietary. It needs to remain open. Everybody needs, and it needs to be accessible. And accessible, when I say that, I mean in a more broad sense, not just for people with disabilities, but for people with any kind of barriers of access to technology. It's there for the individual. It's there. Security is not something that we compromise on in privacy. And the user has the right to shape their own experience of the web, and this is also very relevant to accessibility. When not everybody fits into a specific template when it comes to accessing the web and online life, and we need to be able to shape that experience for their specific needs. There's a new challenge today, and we're trying to stay relevant, and we're trying to understand really where the next billion web users are going to come from. The next billion web users are going to be mobile users, and that's probably going to be the only way that they ever experience the web. And we need to be there to make sure that when they first encounter the internet, that they're not seeing it through the prism of a specific company or a controlled kind of version, but the being able to experience the internet that we first experienced it back in the 90s, and that was when it was really something that was open and available and free to everybody. Unfortunately, that's not really the case today. When we talk about smartphones and the way that internet-enabled devices work, we're talking about a duopoly in a lot of senses, where they're really walled gardens. So they're very nice gardens, but they're walled. If you're using an iPhone, you're going to find the best experience through the App Store or Google. A lot of Facebook, Twitter, and basically everybody who wants to make a compelling mobile application will have to buy into one of these ecosystems. Even I think we were mentioning yesterday that this software, Blackboard Collaborate, is available on each of those stores depending on what kind of device you have. So that is, and of course another important thing to say is that if you are a content provider or if you are an individual who's interested in getting something out there and creating something, you need to, in the Apple case, you need to buy into their developer program, which is not cheap. You need to learn their specific programming language, their specific application programming interfaces, and that is, of course, a hurdle every time you want to be able to bring a certain product or anything else out to the market. So that's the reality today. So what is Mozilla doing? First of all, we're doing the thing that we know how to do best, is to build web browsers. So we built a web browser for Android, which we actually completely rewrote it last year, and it's a good browser, I think. I think that what's important to say in this context, in this kind of event, is that unlike the rest of Android, the Firefox web browser works almost on any Android phone. It doesn't need to be the latest high-end gadget that Google comes out with. It doesn't need to be the latest version of Android. It works on relatively old and lower-end phones, and I think that that's important. So you get a very recent browser with all the features that you expect on the desktop and on newer phones on an older device. And this goes back to our reputation on desktop as well. Anybody could take an old desktop, an old laptop, something that might be not useful for one person. You install Firefox on it, and suddenly it's current again. You could access anything on the web. We're doing something else that's a lot more ambitious. We are launching, I believe this summer, in a few countries, a whole new platform. This is not iOS and Apple. This is not Google's Android. This is our own platform. We're calling it Firefox OS. And the unique thing about it is that it's all based on HTML. So everything on HTML is a language that the web is written in. And everything on it is in HTML. The dialer is HTML. The messaging app is also HTML. So it's a very ambitious project, and we're not trying to. I think that the press over here in the States, when the iPhone first came out, every time there'd be a new gadget, people would say, "Is this the next iPhone killer?" We're not developing an iPhone killer over here. What we're developing is a affordable device that we expect and hope that will replace feature phones in a large part of the world. I think our launch, I don't remember all of our launch countries this summer. We have 18 partners, carriers, hardware vendors. We're launching, I know we're launching in Colombia, Venezuela, Mexico, Brazil, Poland. Those are countries that are going to see this this summer. All right. So where does accessibility come in? I was talking a lot about browsers and about the mobile end of things. Accessibility, first of all, smartphones are the universally designed ICT that we've all been waiting for. And there are three reasons for that. The first one is the fact that they're built for a broad range of situational uses. They're built for non-accurate pointing and pressing things on the screen, for being used in different kinds of environments, loud environments, while driving, while distracted. It has a lot of uses for different cognitive disabilities. And the other thing is that it's a substantial amount of computing in your pocket with a very large array of sensors, a touch screen. So these are all things that have been very expensive in the past. Suddenly, this is a commodity device that is seeing more and more users every day. And at least, but just as important, there's a growing expectation in smartphones that they come with any kind of accessibility needs built into them. So since the second generation iPhone, they have a very good screen reader. Android today has a very good screen reader. We hope to have the same with Firefox OS. So there's no need anymore for the $1,000 software or the special customization that you would have. Specifically, blind users could pick up smartphones today and start using them without any special configuration. And that's for those reasons, smartphones are very interesting when it comes to accessibility use cases. But before we talk about that, I think that there's a broader point that I want to make, and that goes back to Firefox OS, and I was telling you how it's all built in HTML. We believe in Mozilla that web technologies are extremely expressive, and we don't just believe in people consuming digital content all the time. We believe that it's actually easy and accessible to create that content. You don't need a special computer to do it. You don't need special software. You don't need developer licenses. You don't need, what you need is a text editor. And as our foundation works on a project called WebMaker, you could go to it, webmaker.org. It's a lot of outreach and education about how to start creating for the web, how to use HTML. And like I was saying earlier, our smartphone is entirely HTML based. That means that you have access to the entire device, and you could do anything on that entire device just by knowing and employing HTML. And that's another important thing. So there are a few pictures on this slide, and it's different WebMaker events that we've had all over the world. We have a large community in almost every country. But of course, let's talk again about specific accessibility features. When we started our Firefox for Android accessibility work, we decided to go. The important thing is that we decided to go with it being consistent with how Android works and with what users expect when they have their Android phone. So any phone today back to Gingerbread, which I believe is version 2.3, is accessible to one degree or another, and Firefox just works out of the box. If you have accessibility, if you have TalkBack, which is the screen reader enabled, it'll just work. That came in last year, and recently we've had work done in Braille, and there are a lot of other enhancements. And it's similar to the desktop in a lot of ways, because remember in the desktop when Firefox was hardly known, there were a few core users that really liked it, and it's kind of similar right now in Android as well. And I think especially for blind users, not everybody is aware of it, but people who do download it and try it really like it. And then there's Firefox OS, and I introduced all these things, and one of the things that I do in in Mozilla, my work is on the accessibility team. So this is actually what I'm working on right now, and that's Firefox OS Accessibility. And it's based a lot on the accessibility work that we did for Firefox for Android. So I wish we had a demo for you of Firefox OS Accessibility, but unfortunately I don't yet. That's it. Thank you.
What'd you say?